I'm Rebecca On with Money and Tech here at Coin Congress in San Francisco, and I'm here with Alyse Killeen, an early-stage venture capital investor. Thanks for joining me, Alyse.
Thank you for having me.
So, how is your Coin Congress going?
It's going fantastic. This is my second Coin Congress, and it's great to be here.
So you gave a talk yesterday on the confluence of Bitcoin and the global sharing community.
Exactly.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that talk and what the global sharing community is?
Sure. So the global sharing economy is also known as the peer-to-peer or collaborative economy. And I was talking about the collaborative consumption side of the sharing economy and how that matches up with Bitcoin, and how potentially growth is driven in both the Bitcoin and sharing economy ecosystems by the fact that they converge and can be used to drive both adoption and growth of application.
So do you think there's a lot of overlap with those two communities?
I do. So I actually think, so Bitcoin is akin and maybe even fits under the broader umbrella of sharing economy. And the mining network was certainly designed as a sharing network, so meaning multiple miners contribute to build something that couldn't exist if it was just one, and there needs to be many to make it happen. And then at the same time, for miners to be paid for their work, there needs to exist many users. So actually, Bitcoin is, a sharing economy network and infrastructure.
Do you think that's a key to helping grow Bitcoin adoption, getting the larger global sharing network that is already familiar with that concept involved in cryptocurrency as a means of doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the interesting thing is this, I think, is that sharing economy is efficient when it goes peer-to-peer. So, and so right now it's mostly intermediated by marketplaces and really powerful marketplaces that I'm a user of as well. So like Airbnb or Lyft or Getaround, and the transaction is still peer-to-peer, but it's on an Airbnb platform or a Lyft platform, and they provide great value. I think there's also an opportunity to have peer-to-peer connection if payment can be taken care of through Bitcoin, so that it's a secure transaction. And then you don't need necessarily in every case to have the third-party platform. And so this is an interesting application, potentially an interesting application of Bitcoin. And then what I also talked about was that we can share new things if we use Bitcoin and the blockchain to do so. So meaning we can share things like connectivity or storage space on our device, or energy if we're using Bitcoin to facilitate microtransactions, or using the blockchain or a blockchain-like technology to track the exchange of resources.
Right.
So perhaps boring stuff, but it was interesting to me and hopefully a few people in the audience.
Definitely not boring to this community, that's for sure. So you're kind of talking to some Bitcoin 2.0 concepts that they've also been talking about here.
Companies that I've invested in is Open Garden, which doesn't properly fit under the Bitcoin space, but it is the sharing of device level resources. And so, I think it illustrates the point that there's similarity between the two communities. So the cryptocurrency peer-to-peer network community, and then the community that shares resources, and that's what Open Garden does, right? So it's sharing connectivity between devices.
Interesting. So you invest in 3 different funds. What are those funds, and how much of that investment is Bitcoin related?
Sure. So I work across now 3 funds, 2 of them which are investing. So I'm based in Santa Monica, so in Southern California, and have been working with Clearstone for about the past 3 years, a little less. And we've raised a 4th fund, which will be associated with a new firm. So it's March Capital Partners, and that firm's investing. And Clearstone still has active portfolio companies. And Clearstone also had always been investing early in the fintech innovation space. So for instance, PayPal was something we invested in very early, before it was even PayPal, before it was called PayPal. And then I'm also investing with Future Perfect Ventures, which is a New York-based fund. And at this point, or by the end of the summer, it looks like our fund will be maybe a third Bitcoin focused or Bitcoin centric.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. So we look at interpretive intelligence, and for us that means big data application across sectors. And we also look at computer science innovation. And so, of course, this is how Bitcoin fits in.
So, and along with these efforts, you also created the Women in Venture Finance organization. Tell me more about that.
Yep. So we're based in LA. We originated in 2013, and with the agenda that at this point there's 4% of partners at venture funds are women. And we are working towards creating an infrastructure or network that facilitates women's career advancement in venture capital. So helping folks get from the junior side to the partner side. And then also helping folks that begin in venture capital and then exit to be on the ops side or to start their own companies, helping them come back in and get to partner level. So now that's based in LA and hopefully soon expanding to other cities.
That's exciting. So are you mainly encouraging women to be on the venture capital side, or you mentioned you're also encouraging women to just be a part of the executive level or operational level of any company?
So really it's a network for women that are already on the VC side to facilitate professional development that will allow them to advance in their career.
Why do you think there is that gender gap currently?
I think that positive movements forward include things like women starting their own funds, actually. So as we see this beginning to happen, and the fund I work with in New York is founded by a woman GP. And I think that that's something that will certainly help develop the ecosystem. I think perhaps it often makes more sense to start your own fund than try to advance to the partner level, and the social dynamics sometimes make that more difficult actually than starting your own fund, I think. One thing that's really interesting is that I think that having women on the partner side is beneficial for both men and women on the entrepreneurial side. And I've seen this with Future Perfect. So men and women both are interested in pitching or working with diverse investors. And I think we've gotten feedback that male entrepreneurs have been interested in working with us specifically because they think we can bring something different or additive to the table. And so it's important that we go beyond 4% and maybe ambitiously reach to be 20% of the partner community, or something that's more representative of the demographics that we serve on the entrepreneurial side.
That's great that you've been getting support from both sides of the gender equation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're in the process of raising money to grow our network and have gotten fantastic response from the larger service provider firms, and mostly from the men that lead. It just has happened to be the case that it's been men that have been leading the allocation of their marketing dollars, which is what we raise funds from, and certainly men and women both see a need for it.
Now, do you think that this will influence the increase of women in cryptocurrency and decentralized applications?
I hope so. So I actually think, so this is really interesting. So Future Perfect is focused on technology that impacts both domestic and emerging markets. And in the emerging market and cryptocurrency space, some of the strongest companies are founded or co-founded by women. So I actually think there's a really natural fit. And I suspect that it continues in that direction. So I think at least as it goes for cryptocurrency's application to emerging markets, that we'll see a 50-50 split for founders, men and women. And it exists now. So the strongest companies are founded or co-founded by women often in that space.
So do you think the gender gap in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies is more on the participant and user side than on the founding, creating of businesses side?
So the Bitcoin community is represented at conferences. So I'm also on the Women in Crypto Business Association board, which was founded by Tatiana Moroz. And part of the agenda there will be to increase diversity at conferences, or to create a best practices framework so that conferences that are inclined to want to be inclusive can reach out for that framework and apply it in the planning stages. And I think that there's maybe some non-intuitive things that just have to change. So when you have more women speakers at conferences or women panelists, then, and when that's represented on your website and folks are checking it out, then women feel, I'm presuming, I'm projecting now, I think that women feel more comfortable to attend or feel more comfortable to contribute their voice. And it makes sense. There's a lot of great women thought leaders in the crypto space, and so it makes sense that they be included. And that's what we're working towards. Which again, I think is helpful to both men and women in the space. I think that we see things beginning to change and become more inclusive at conferences, and this conference is a great example of that. So Brock Pierce, who organized the conference, I think did a great job of making sure to include women on the speaking side, as well as reaching out to women he thought should be attending and making sure they felt included. So hopefully we continue to see that.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Alyse, for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me to join.
That was Alyse Killeen, early stage venture capital investor, and I'm Rebecca Ahn with Money and Tech. Thanks for watching.